I strongly dislike making videos like this or having a cover of topics like this. Is just always heartfelt. We're going to be talking about more new details about the Black Hawk helicopter crash in DC. And we're also going to be reviewing a truly heartbreaking video of one of the people who attended the flight, which was also an attorney, Kiah Duggins. And we're also going to be hearing from a former Army aviator and Black Hawk pilot on how the crash could have been prevented. But first, let's look at the analysis.
How an American Airlines plane and a Black Hawk helicopter ended in a tragic collision when the plane was attempting to land at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. American Airlines Flight 5342 was on its final approach to the runway when it crossed paths with an Army Black Hawk helicopter, PAT-25, which was reportedly on a possible training flight. The helicopter was flying perpendicular to the plane's flight path. Potomac River is a designated flight corridor for helicopters, and it's common to see aircraft like this operating in the area. A key difference in this scenario was the operating rules of the two aircraft. Flight 5342 was operating under instrument flight rules, which grants priority in controlled airspace. In contrast, PAT-25...
In controlled airspace, so what that mean? Like he get more priority within like air control, like support?
Was operating under instrument flight rules, which grants priority in controlled airspace. In contrast, PAT-25 was flying under visual flight rules, meaning it was required to maintain visual awareness of its surroundings to avoid other aircraft. Moments before the collision, Air Traffic Control Tower at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport contacted PAT-25 to confirm whether they had the approaching aircraft in sight. The crew of PAT-25 responded affirmatively. At first, this seemed to indicate that they were aware of Flight 5342's presence and were taking measures to avoid it. However, it now appears that PAT-25 may have mistakenly identified a different aircraft, possibly a departing flight from the same airport, as the one referred to by the tower. Tragically, this misidentification may have caused PAT-25 to be unaware that Flight 5...
Yeah, and that's exactly why I have to stop it. Okay. We can't see anything beyond that for obvious reasons. Thinking, man, just pondering. I don't know what to believe right now, right? I can't say that this is obviously an analysis, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know if I believe. I can't say that I do or I don't believe this could have been possible. Could it have been that he did see a different plane on his radar? Well, he was operating under manual vision. I know I don't say it. I'm not saying it correctly. Versus the operating system. I could be getting this whole concept incorrectly, but I never operated a plane in my life. So, Marie Ryan added, interesting, but doesn't address the fact that the helicopter was significantly over the legal and authorized altitude. So if it was over the authorized altitude, was it at a level that it shouldn't have been? Well, duh, my fault. Was it at a level that the planes often, they have to get to that point in order to get hired? So it was just it was at a point in which it was already dangerous for it to be incoming with the outgoing airplanes in the first place. Just trying to understand this, y'all. I don't mean to burden y'all with my lack of understanding at all. But here's here's a photo from that crash. It says Black Hawk helicopter had key safety system deactivated during deadly collision with American Airlines jet. There may be a quote here. There was no compelling national security reason for ADS-B dash B to be turned off. So it didn't even have what I'm assuming or understanding to be an emergency safety just in case. They didn't even have that activated. See, it's those details that make you wonder, man. Someone said, Nathan Sweet said, I've watched the video of the collision and I still can't figure out how there was no attempt to dodge the plane. Something isn't right about this, and we are not being told everything. I can honestly say I feel the same way at this very moment about this. I really do. I watched the video as well. I know you guys have seen the unedited footage at this point from X already. And I can't say helicopters, I assume they move pretty fast, so they should be able to. Anyhow, truly heartbreaking. Attorney Kiah Duggins was very passionate about making lasting change in the legal system. She sadly passed after a Black Hawk helicopter collided with the American airline plane, claiming 67 lives. Let's go ahead and check this out.
I'm an attorney at Civil Rights Court. So I'm here to oppose the Secure DC Act. The act seeks to expand pretrial detention, which means putting legally innocent people into cages pre-trial. And we know that expanding pretrial detention does not keep people safe. In fact, it increases violent crime. It increases a lack of safety in the community by completely destabilizing people's lives. We're also opposing the anti-mask section of the bill. The bill is attempting to criminalize youth for wearing masks in public, and that raises many issues, including First Amendment issues. And last but certainly not least, we're here to oppose the drug-free zone section of the Secure DC bill, which seeks to allow police to arrest people without probable cause, to racially profile people. And in fact, this drug-free zone section of the bill was repealed in the past because it was unconstitutional, and they're trying to bring it back. So we're here to oppose the Secure DC bill. We care about true public safety, and this bill does nothing to keep people safe, and in fact puts people in danger by allowing the police in the state to detain them and arrest them and harass them without probable cause.
Big issue here that a lot of
Now, whether you agree or disagree with her stance on whatever is not the point. We are not here to. We can have a conversation about the talking points, whatever. We've had conversations, agreeing or disagreeing, but that's not the point. The point is we're watching a young, beautiful woman whom was very passionate about what she was doing, and her life was claimed way too early, which brings me to the next point. Please, y'all, don't take your loved ones for granted. Life is short. Life is so short. It could be taken away from us just like that. My heart definitely goes out to this family, to all the grieving families. I'm sorry. 28 agencies were authorized to fly helicopters near Reagan Airport before the deadly crash. I don't know if that's odd or not, so I don't know how to react to that. The Army was one of 28 government agencies authorized to fly helicopters near Ronald Reagan National Airport before its Black Hawk helicopter collided with an American Airlines passenger jet last week, killing 67. That constant helicopter traffic near such a busy airport is one of many aspects now under review by investigators, as the wreckage of both aircrafts are recovered. Authorities are also looking at why the helicopter may have been flying above 200-foot flight restriction. They should. We need answers to that for sure. More details are becoming clear, including that there were no rule on how far inland or over the water the helicopter could be. Here's what investigators have found, including a new interview with a key Army aviation official, which we're going to review in just a second via video. It says the unit is stretched thin. Okay, that's one point. We're just going to kind of go through these points real quick so we can go ahead and get to the next piece. It also says night vision goggles were likely used. What? The crew was likely wearing night vision goggles at the time of the crash. National Transportation Safety Board Chairwoman Jennifer Homedy told reporters on Capitol Hill Thursday. Homedy Indy, said investigators listening to the recovered cockpit voice recorder do not hear the crew say that they are flying unaided, which they would have indicated if they did not have goggles on. Crews trained to fly at night with or without the goggles, whether to wear them is the call of the pilot in command. But if they are worn, all 3 crew members will have them on. It also poses the question, was a key altitude tracker turned off? I don't even know what that is. Ted Cruz said, oh yeah, he did mention that. He said investigators told them the Black Hawk had ADSB turned off. Yes, we just talked about this. My fault, y'all. ADSB, short of automatic dependent surveillance broadcast, provides more accurate and real-time tracking of an aircraft's location. Okay, now I know what that is. Wow, he didn't even have that on at the very least. At the very least, whether you can see or you can't see, I would assume that they would have that on, right? Route 4 corridor used by 28 agencies. Brandman said the Army's 12th, I don't know how you say that, battalion is part of one of 28 agencies who use the low altitude helicopter routes around Reagan National Airport. That includes the Department of Defense, individual military services, local, state, and federal law enforcement, emergency medical services, the National Guard, Coast Guard, and others. Very large amount of users, Bremen said. So what we learned is, the high number of agencies authorized to fly near a major airport increases the risk of collisions due to dense air traffic. Coordination among so many agencies could lead to communication errors or misinterpretations of flight paths. Just things to consider, right? Flight restrictions, lack of lateral boundaries could lead to confusion and potential violations of flight paths. Without clear limitations, pilots might inadvertently fly into restricted or dangerous areas. Unit operations. Stretched resources might compromise safety and maintenance standards, potentially leading to accidents. Overworked personnel might be prone to human error due to fatigue or stress, some of the other reasons. Older aircraft might, so they got all these other reasons. Challenges in depth perception with night vision could contribute to accidents due to low visibility. Reliance on night vision might cause complacency or overconfidence, neglecting other safety checks is some of the things that they're saying as well. But now I want y'all to watch this. The aircraft crash in DC was horrific and tragic, according to Rep. Scott Perry. He also, as a former Army aviator and Black Hawk pilot, as well as a member of the House Transportation and Committee, I'm following this closely and receiving a briefing today that I hope sheds light on what exactly happened and why it was preventable.
Well, look, in Washington, D.C., if you drive around here, if you come into town, you'll notice, if you're watching, that there's a plane landing across the river probably about every 60 seconds. And so it's a very high volume traffic area. And of course, we seek to separate aircraft in all circumstances. And in this occasion, there is a low-level route, a day route, and a night route, and you must stay, if you're a helicopter, and you can do this pretty easily, stay below the assigned altitude so that you maintain that vertical separation. And I suspect, we're waiting to see, I'm a member of the Transportation Committee, we're going to get a briefing tomorrow, we're going to go out and see the remains of the crash, but I suspect a couple things have happened. I suspect there were inadequate calls from air traffic control. So when they say, do you see the aircraft? That's not specific enough. Do you see the aircraft at 12 o'clock and a quarter mile is different than do you see the aircraft? Because again, every 60 seconds, one's landing. So when you see one, you got to make sure it's the correct one, because there's another one right behind it. And there was another one right behind that. And so if the pilots acknowledged air traffic control and said, yes, I see the aircraft, which aircraft? ATC needs to be specific. And also, you need to be on your altitude. I suspect we're going to find that the helicopter had breached the ceiling, had flown above the assigned altitude, no vertical separation. flying objects in the same place at the same time, the unfortunate and horrific tragedy results.
And just to clarify, from a layperson's perspective, because you've literally flown the helicopter, you've literally flown the route, is that in that moment there were multiple planes stacked.
Yes.
And that it is presumed that the pilot misidentified the aircraft that was closest.
That's what and you got to remember, if you're looking at an airplane from the side, you're going to see a little red light or a little green light, depending on which side of the aircraft you're on. But if you're facing the aircraft, and it's landing, you're going to see blaring landing lights. But if the aircraft turns, you're not going to see those landing lights. But if there's another aircraft coming on approach, even if it's a mile or two away, those lights are very bright. And you might say, I see the aircraft, you see that one, but you don't see this one right in front of you.
Okay. I can appreciate an analysis from somebody who's literally flown the route, who does this, and who, knows the ins and out of it all. Provides a great deal of comfort in terms of having somewhat of an understanding. But it doesn't necessarily remove the tension in terms of wanting to get down to the bottom of this. He talked about altitude issues, and exceeding altitude restrictions can lead to dangerous situations, especially near airports. And if pilots do not trust their instruments or misjudge their altitude, it could lead to catastrophic errors. What are 2 points? A couple of the 2 points. Well, only 2 of the points that I took from that, outside of the many points that he made. Sorry, y'all, trying to get together. Oh, I was supposed to show y'all a few of these comments before I left. It says, spot on analysis. Scott given the known facts. The helicopter also was not supposed to be over the river at that point, which further lessened vertical separation as the airliner was at a lower altitude at that point in its approach path over the river. Luther Walkie added, the DC crash was 100% preventable by the FAA. They were warned at least 15 times of close calls between airliners and helicopters going back to 91 via incident reports that were filed by ATCs and pilots using an official system created specifically for this purpose. See, just when I thought I had some comfort,